Woohoo! We are back. Today's podcast will be about streets. Now, you may think, why would they possibly talk about streets? For good reasons. But we will tell you what's interesting about streets. And we, that are as usually me and you.
Yeah. Hi.
Okay, let me just start off with a question.
Wait, can't we introduce how we got to the topic? Because we had a really important moment yesterday.
Yes, we can say it before.
Okay, so we had a very important moment yesterday where I introduced you to The Streets, the band. Well, not the band.
Introducing me to the band?
Yeah.
Or the band?
Both.
Yeah.
For the first time ever. And so in my kitchen, we played some of The Streets' best work. And you really liked it, didn't you?
It was fantastic. I don't know, leave it in the comment below if you know The Streets, but it's very British. And even though I'm not from Britain,
You loved it.
if I could make Britain sound, it would be The Streets, I guess.
Yeah, but that's what I think I was trying to say, is that like it was Britain in a nutshell in music.
Yeah.
And all hail Mike Skinner,
Yeah.
the king.
I remember you saying about one of their songs, I've seen grown men cry.
Yeah, absolutely. We become heroes.
Yeah.
Yeah, if that gets played at any point in like festivals or sets, like in the wee small hours of the morning, I have seen grown men cry. It's my brother's favorite songs. It's amazing.
And I was wondering when I was watching them today on YouTube, or they didn't have so many views.
No, they were really famous in the UK in the early 2000s.
Yeah, so even before kind of YouTube.
Yeah,
everything
but
started.
like after Oasis, kind of like at the same time as Oasis were like winding up, and they were so famous, and they were absolutely like the voice of the UK without a doubt. But it didn't spread so far because it's not that like relatable if you're not British, which is why it's so great that you're a fan.
Anyway, this brought us to the topic of streets, which is not only an urban or sociological or anthropological topic, it can be everything. And I guess it would be interesting to just start off with an easy question. Can you describe the street where you grew up? How did it look?
Okay. So it was a long, very straight street, and it was one row back from quite a main road in West London.
Like a parallel.
Yeah, exactly. And completely residential, no shops on it whatsoever. And it was all quite identical, like 3 blocks of pretty much identical houses, all like Victorian townhouses that are white, painted white on the outside with like, different doors, whatever. But what was interesting is that opposite our road, not on the main road, but like, just before, was a huge council estate and social housing. And on the other side was a old people's home. And then in the middle was our stretch of houses.
Right.
And lots of the houses around us were broken up into flats, but we had the whole house. And my parents had been living there for a long time.
Sure.
So, and it was a real thoroughfare, like a real through road for people. So lots of like human traffic, but then also lots of quite dodgy stuff going on because of the council estate, and then like us in our house.
Yeah.
So it was really lively, and I think it became, we sold the house in 2015, and it was like a huge loss for everyone in our friendship group, in our family and stuff.
Did you move away, or
that we moved
financially
away?
A huge loss?
No, financially a huge gain, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But it was a huge loss to like everyone that knew us. I mean, there was real mourning for Bembo.
Yeah, you told me that back in the days this was a kind of dangerous, kind of dodgy street.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's kind of where everyone wants to live.
Yeah, well, it's just expensive to live there now, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess for me, I think I've lived during my childhood in 3 different streets, but they were all the same. From the look, it was all like kind of social public housing, kind of this kind of Soviet mass housing kind of thing, which is especially in East Germany very common. And as a kid, you don't really think about if this is now a good place to grow up or not.
Mm.
But it's good because you always have like huge courtyards, you have like playgrounds everywhere around, there's a lot of greenery, and it's quite fun. I mean, there are a lot of kids living in these places.
But I'm so envious of that, because every film, book, like narrative ever, tale that I've heard of people running across the street to their friend's house, I never had that in my whole life.
Yeah, because you didn't have friends living across the street.
Because I had no friends.
Nah.
No, because my friends didn't. Maybe they lived 10 minutes away, but they
Yes.
didn't live across the street.
Yeah.
So I didn't have any experience of that really growing up.
But this probably then brought you that your friends weren't so close to you, so you had to actually go out, set out, and explore.
Yeah,
the
so
area
I
around
went on
you.
the tube for like on my own when I was probably like 12, 11,
Yeah.
like, and would get the train and stuff if I needed to, because it was just it felt like everything was accessible if you just were brave enough to go.
Yeah.
It was confusing at first, but like my mum would say, okay, get on the train, get on the tube here,
Yeah.
and get off here, and then
Right.
I would just do it, and then gradually I started learning myself.
Yeah, because and then I have always been in this microcosmos, so I didn't really know any outer place than the whole area, which is all like kind of public mass housing, and it's all the same. And now, I think now I'm like I really want to live in a different kind of housing type than where I grew up. So there's absolutely no desire. Sometimes I'm romanticizing this place and thinking like, oh, it was because all like these memories there, but I really want to live in a different kind of building. But then because also these buildings tend to be rather at the edge of the city than in the city center. And, I guess.
But so if you could choose what kind of street that you would live on, let's say not next because you're really young still, but like for your life, for where you live if you settle down and have kids and that wife.
Like what?
Dat wife.
Like what type of street are
Yeah,
you?
well, where do you envisage, like, if you could choose? I mean, maybe even where, as well as what kind of street.
Well, I guess it would be just like one of these, like not like I said earlier to you that I probably would live in Berlin somewhere, and probably close to one of the streets that are very lively, but definitely not directly on the lively street.
Yeah.
So just like in a parallel street or two parallel streets, but not like lively in terms of violently excessive rides.
Just like
every night.
happening.
Yeah, just like people are there in the evening, sitting on the windowsills drinking beer.
It's so weird that you said that, because when I last went to Berlin, I stayed on a street exactly like that
Yeah,
in Neukölln.
yeah,
And it was exactly that. Like, there was a street running by it, which was really lively, and loads of bars and really like beautiful night noise.
yeah.
But
yeah,
we were in this apartment that was just behind it, and it's
Exactly.
so beautiful. Slightly sloped streets with like trees and nice big houses.
Yeah, yeah. I haven't seen. I'm pretty sure you got in London like very similar places. But I still feel like in Berlin, maybe just because I'm German, that it's like very. Like I have such a desire to live there, even though I haven't been there so many times. I'm just like this idealized image of the street, and I don't know, like in this, me imagining the street where I'm living, there's always like sunset. It's always like 8 p.m.
Yeah, that's exactly how I see it as well.
Yeah, and it's so like I don't want to live like in a single family house or somewhere. But just like kind of I don't know, like a main street where everyone would kind of meet.
Yeah.
Like even if I'm not meeting my friends there, I would see like similar people every day, and I
Yeah.
would get like a feeling of the rhythm of the street.
I think that's very rewarding. That's why we look for those things.
Yeah.
Building up a real database of like the people around you and the stuff that you're seeing that's
Yes.
familiar.
Yeah.
Also, yeah, if you're into routine, then
Well, I'm at the moment very much into routine. I've got a lot of critic
that's a
about it.
disclaimer. Tom is into routine at the moment.
But you told me earlier that you want to live in a huge Irish countryside house.
Yeah.
And there's probably like one highway leading out of the city to your village, kind of.
Yeah, but I'm not in the village. That's how I see it. Not huge. I mean, just like an old stone farmhouse is what I want to live in.
Yes.
That I can do up myself, and that is close enough to a village that my kids don't feel like they're not in touch with anything in the world, but is green and airy enough that they can run around,
Yeah.
naked in their wellies as long as they like.
But it's like not at the main highway, but more there's a little sand road leading to
Yeah,
your house in
exactly.
the hills and kind
Yeah.
of. I don't know. How is it? What like streets? What? How is it when you come to a new? You want to say something?
No, but
You're
then
just raising your arm.
excuse me, I've got something to say. No, but then when you say that back to me after you talking about Berlin, it makes me think. Well, I also would love to live in Berlin, like in that exact same street as well.
Yeah.
But there's this part of me that's like, oh, wouldn't it be so wonderful having lived in cities my whole life to just be outside in the green? And actually, that's more of a thing thinking about my kids. I want my kids to grow up where they have as much space as possible.
Yes.
And to really, it's not about me. I'm a very selfless, kind person.
That's fantastic. I guess you can have 2 streets where you live.
Yeah, maybe I'll have 2 houses if I get enough bank.
Yeah, this is but
Cha-ching!
just as we put it now. What's the relation from the house to the street?
In general, what?
It's just a spontaneous, difficult question, maybe.
Yeah,
but,
no, it's interesting.
Um,
I think that it's everything.
Yeah.
I think that when you're within a house and it feels by its decoration like the house that belongs to the person who it belongs to, then you're not so aware of the street. If you feel safe and you feel comfortable and welcome there, then it doesn't matter. You could be anywhere in the world and you step outside the door and you're like, oh, this is where I am. But if the house is like in some way reflective of what's going on outside, then I think it feels like the house and the street are one.
Yeah.
So my house in London, it used to always feel like a TARDIS. You go inside and it was like get bigger and bigger, and it was all higgledy-piggledy, everything everywhere. There's always someone or a cat or another person in a corner.
Yeah.
And then you step outside and it was just like any old street in London, could be anywhere, and there's like drug dealings happening,
So
old
the
people.
house was more like a vertical street, whereas the street was like a horizontal house.
Precisely.
Okay.
Very well put.
But then, like, especially with newer developments, like when there are newer houses built along a street and they doesn't seem to match, like everyone is always angry when they build a new, like
Yeah.
state of Berlin, when they build a new residential place there, and it's just super expensive and doesn't fit the kind of genius look of the area. But then I always think in 10 years or something, because they have to build something new. You can't just like let the old things fall down, but don't put build new on the edge of the city. It's very difficult to kind of, because every street has kind of a certain atmosphere to it, which you don't want to destroy. It's really because people live there because they like it, or they lived there long before and they're just grown into this, or yeah. And like, do you know Karl Marx kind of street in Berlin? It's like it's like such a Russian Eastern Berlin, straight, long, super wide, super big street, and it's just fantastic to walk there. I think there just
This
once.
is your favourite word.
Yeah, sometimes. I think there just once when I thought this street exists in Berlin. This is crazy. It's like there's a certain fascination, and it's such a wide, big street that you would. I mean, it's just crazy when you see other streets in Berlin.
Yeah.
So you get like this interesting mixture.
But you asked me the other day, maybe it was yesterday, where I would live. Didn't you ask me what street would I live on if I could live on any street?
I possibly even wanted to hear a name.
Yeah, you said, and I immediately knew what to respond, but I hadn't thought about that for so long.
Yeah.
And now, obviously, it's changed a little bit, but it was Dennington Park Road. It came to me immediately when you asked me, not in podcast context. And it's West Hampstead, off Hampstead Heath.
Yeah.
And you asked me for specific details and I could tell you exactly. And that was crazy to me because, yeah, when I was 14, I used to drive past it with my mum and say, Dennington Park Road, that's where I'm going to live. But I've only been there, like, on foot maybe 2 or 3 times in my entire life.
Yeah.
And the minute you asked me, I had it right there and then.
That's interesting.
That's fascinating to me.
Yeah. What is the influence of the name, the little Park Road? What was the name?
Dennington
Park Road, on you liking the street? Like,
I think it's a big thing because it's a part of London that I used to drive through with my mum to go out of London to Cambridge.
Yeah.
And that was a journey we did like twice a week, and it was a very intense journey, and it was always me in the front seat looking out the window. And you go past Abbey Road where they recorded all the Beatles stuff, and then you go through that's right, tourist points.
Yeah.
And then you keep going through up to West Hampstead, and I don't know. It's just like I would drive, and I remember the sign is on the very corner of the road, as they tend to be. But it was like just in my eyesight. But the road bends round away from the sign, so I'd see Dennington Park Road, and such a nice like syllables wise, and then look down, and it would bend, and then there was a library, and I loved that. Yeah. And also it had these. It was kind of townhouse, but not the really tall big ones. Not with steps going up, just like steps straight away. Yeah. And then it always had red brick, which I love, and white painted balconies, which I thought were great.
Yeah. I think also for me, the name of the street is really, really important. Like the streets where I grew up had all like just named after authors.
What were they called?
Like there was, as I told you earlier, Tolstoy Street.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Then there was. Well, the street where I lived is not a well-known author, but there was like Bertolt Brecht Street, and like the whole area was named after authors.
That's quite interesting, though.
Yeah, but it's like when you look here now, where we are now in Tallinn, especially in this area now, the streets are also named after, like have a similar type of naming.
Yeah.
Streets, which I don't really like when streets are named after people. I like when it's like straight, like in New York or something, first, second, fifth.
Well, it forces an identity on the street just because of that person that it's named after.
And I would rather like.
If I lived on Tolstoy Street, I think it would definitely have an impact on me.
Yeah, but not when you're 10.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, I don't know, but it's a good point. Forces an identity on you. I think.
But that's really interesting to me that you like. That was actually not that surprising, maybe, but that you like the idea of just the numbered streets, it being in like a very orderly grid.
It sounds like you say that's not surprising.
Sorry, maybe that was a bit mean.
That's fine.
But I'm the opposite. Like, I need it to have some character.
Yeah. But wouldn't you like to live
I always get frustrated when I watch movies and they're like 34th and 2nd. I'm like, God,
that sounds so
how
cool.
dull.
No? Like, it's a secret code.
Yeah, but we know that it's the code for streets. It's not that exciting.
Mm-hmm. What do you think of squares? Like, where, for example, 4 streets meet.
They're magical, mythical creatures, I think. Mm-hmm. In London, there are so many, and in Edinburgh as well, there are so many. And in Edinburgh in particular, we had this kind of never-ending mission to try and get inside one of them, because in the park, like the little green space in the middle, because they're always locked and they're only for residents.
Yes.
And once in my entire 3 years of being there, I went into one of the squares because we were walking my friend's boss's dog and we were allowed in there just to walk the dog, and I couldn't believe when I went in, it was like, you know, we want to speak in hushed tones, like in case someone caught us, and you have to have these keys. So for me, squares are very they're emotive in some way, and also it reminds you that you're in like a rich and cultured and because they were a meeting place for like the landed gentry back in the day.
Absolutely.
So it reminds you that you're in some kind of high level stakes. Right.
And then at night times when people are reclaiming more and more space from the street where otherwise only cars would be allowed, and people like standing on the street and like really moving from their kind of restricted sidewalk to the street, and this is really fantastic at night times.
Makes me so happy. People crowding out onto the street outside pubs in London is my favourite sight ever. Yeah.
And then like the whole sidewalk is blocked and you have to necessarily move to the street, but just because everyone is doing it, it's kind of okay and justified, and it just gets this super nice atmosphere. And in return, then cars would possibly even go somewhere else because they know this street is troublesome to drive at night. Yeah. And it's really like this kind of subliminal struggle between pedestrians and cars. Yeah. So I think when it comes to streets, there are a lot details and very subtle things to consider that then constitute a great street. But definitely a street stands and falls with with the kind of bars and shops that are there and how long it's opened. But then last thing to add here for this part is that when you have a lively street, the thing I don't like about it is that it's like a magnet, so everything is going on there, and when you just leave the street to one side street, then just such a quiet silence. And it's
I quite like that when you walk away from a very busy bar on a street up to the other end of the street, and you kind of can't hear anything.
Yeah.
And it feels like over-exaggerated calm and quiet in a really nice way.
Yeah, but this is, I guess, what I liked in the old part of Venice, where I have seen only one place that was really crowded, but otherwise you could go everywhere and would suddenly find this or meet some people. I mean, you didn't really know where something is going on. It was like spread everywhere. This is quite fascinating in times as well.
What about the thing I was saying earlier about the idea that for one person, a place is a place, as in a place of significance, and for another person, the same place is just space and nothing more.
Is it a question?
Yeah, it was a ... question.
Well, what makes a space a place? Is it just memories, or?
That's what I'm asking you.
Well, it's another one of these not
rhetorical,
question. Not necessarily asking new questions, but I think it has a lot to do with memories. But then also memories turn sometimes a place into a space. So sometimes, like especially in my hometown, there are some streets where I have like so many memories that I'm so tired and so that like this place or the street is so overconsumed that I don't want it to be like important for me anymore. I just want it to be a normal street where I would go without thinking about what has happened there. But yeah, otherwise I think it's definitely memories, and maybe well, some streets I have not many memories to them, but they're just great to use, are very functional.
Yeah.
Like in Melbourne there was this very long road called St Kilda Road, and I don't have many like memories to that, but I used to go there with the bike. They had the like horrible bike lane, but compared to other parts of Melbourne was still fantastic bike lane. So I liked the street just because it was like 5 kilometers and straight, and I could just go with my bike. And I was like looking forward every morning to do that.
That's a good example, because I'm sure for many, many other people that street is just a street.
Yeah.
That doesn't have any real use.
Yeah.
Functional otherwise.
Yeah. But just to say, there are possibly different various criteria to turn a place into a space. Shall we call it a podcast here?
I think we should call it a pod.
All right. Thank you for listening. Tune in. Oh, it will be not by tomorrow.
No.
But tune in soon, and we'll be back with another exciting topic, which we can't talk about. No, we can't talk about now. All right, and subscribe to the channel. And see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.